widen this conversation, and joining us is David Otto Endeley, an international defense and security analyst. He's also the director on security for Horn of Africa Institute for Peace and Security. He joins us via Zoom from London. Thank you very much, David, for your time tonight. So what do you make of Taliban's new appointments?
I think it's been very exciting because since the Taliban took over just 20 years after they've been in the cold as an insurgency, everyone was expecting to see a new government. The international community of, both Afghanis, they wanted to see a new government. But again, we've got to make it very clear that this is only an interim government and it's not yet complete. Of course, we would see when that comes. But significantly, what we've seen is that, people like Alhaji Mullah Hassan Akund, has been named as the prime minister, of course, an interim. He's one of the founders of the Taliban, but also comes from the Taliban stronghold of Kandahar. Then, one of the key figures that negotiated, the peace deal between the Taliban, the Afghan government, and the U.S., Abdul Ghani Baradar, he's the first deputy. So he's going to be working very closely, of course, with Mullah Hassan Akund, together with the second deputy, Mullah Abdul Salam. Now, you've got to remember that they've named Caliph Haibatullah Akhundzada, who has not been seen. He remains the supreme leader, of the new Islamic Emirates government. Now, the very important party that we've also seen is Mullah Yaqub Mujahid, who is now the defense minister. He used to be, of course, he's the son of Mullah Omar, who used to be one of the main founders of the Taliban government. But again, the biggest beneficiaries of this new government are the Haqqani, family. I think we've seen, Sarajuddin Haqqani. He's been named as the interior minister. Remember, he's on the FBI most wanted list, in Afghanistan. Also, we have Abdul Bakr Haqqani, who is the education minister, Najibullah Haqqani, who is the telecommunications minister, and Rehman Haqqani takes the refugees ministry. So the Haqqani network, which of course is responsible for security within Afghanistan, as we've seen in Kabul airport, has made a very significant gain. They've had the lion's share of the government network. Again, we've seen Mullah Ami Khan, who is the foreign ministry. I mean, he was the one who was sent to negotiate with the Panjdi resistance leaders, especially the people like Ahmad Massoud's son, Ahmad Massoud, and then also Amrullah Saleh. So Moulawi Ami Khan has a big, job in his hands as a foreign minister. He has to interact with all the neighboring countries: Pakistan, China, India, Russia, but also importantly, countries like Russia and Qatar. Then another person that made it to the list, is Haidatullah Badri, who is the finance minister. Remember, Taliban, since they took over the country, has been suffering from economic issues. So the finance minister would have a huge job in their hands. Now, another important party is Kwari Fashuddin, who is now the chief of army staff for the defense ministry. So these are very key individuals. The spokesman himself, Zabihullah Mujahid, he's now the communications and information and culture minister. So those are the key positions that we've seen. But again, it comes down to, is this an inclusive government? Because we haven't seen any ministry of, any women in any of the positions. But also there has been a ministry that will look after the women's affairs, but no women in the government.
Okay, so we're running out of time, David, but just very briefly, as you said, this is only just an interim government, but it is a government that comes in with when the country is facing numerous challenges. How will it tackle these challenges? Very briefly.
I think the biggest challenge that it has is to consolidate power, especially with the resistance movement that is in Panjdi, but also the economic situation in the country. It's a new country, of course, it's been there, but they have to rebuild the country. They have to gain trust of the international community. This new government has to promise that it can secure its borders and prevent groups like Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State of the Khorasan province, from also taking hold and finding a safe haven in Afghanistan. So these are some of the key issues. But more importantly, they've got to do some work, and hopefully they can start work as soon as possible.